What would you do if the whole world wanted you to fail? What would you do if your own family wanted to destroy you? Imagine this. You are completely alone. You have no friends. You have no army. The people you trust the most are planning to take your life. You feel the pressure. You feel the danger. But you do not break. You do not run away. You do not give up. This is not just a story from an old history book. This is the real life of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt. Many people think of her as just a face on a cold stone. They think of her as a character in an old movie. But she was a real woman. She was a mother. She was a leader. She was a survivor. She faced impossible odds. And she stood tall, again and again. Today, we are not just going to learn history. We are going to learn how to think like a queen. We are going to learn how to stand strong when everything falls apart. Every time you feel weak, this story will give you strength. Every time you want to give up, this story will show you a way. This story is for your life. It is a journey of power, love, and extreme courage. As you listen, you will feel your mind grow stronger. You will hear simple, powerful English words. These words will help you speak better. These words will help you think better. You do not need to study hard rules today. You just need to listen. You just need to feel the story. So, take a deep breath. Sit back. Listen to the words. Feel the power of this story. Let us begin the journey. Part 1. The Girl Who Learned Everything. More than 2,000 years ago, in the year 69 BCE, a baby girl was born. She was born in a beautiful city called Alexandria. This city was in Egypt. It was a place of great wealth, a place of big libraries, and a place of power. Her name was Cleopatra. But she was not like the other children in the palace. She was born into a royal family. This family was called the Ptolemaic dynasty. They had ruled Egypt for a very long time. But here is an interesting secret. Her family was not originally from Egypt. They came from Greece. Many years before, a great general named Alexander the Great conquered Egypt. Cleopatra's ancestor, Ptolemy I, was one of his generals. When Alexander died, Ptolemy became the king of Egypt. So, Cleopatra had Greek blood, but she lived in Egypt. Her father was King Ptolemy XII. He was a king, but he was not a strong leader. He had many enemies. The people of Egypt did not respect him. He spent too much money, and he made many mistakes. Cleopatra saw this. She watched her father. She saw how dangerous it was to be a weak ruler. She saw that a crown does not make you a king. Only your mind can make you a leader. In the royal palace, life looked beautiful. There were servants, there were gold cups, there were fine clothes. But behind the gold, there was fear. Family members fought each other for the throne. Sometimes, brothers killed sisters. Sometimes, children killed parents. To survive, Cleopatra knew she had to be different. She knew she had to be smart. While other royal children played in the gardens, Cleopatra studied. While others slept, Cleopatra read. While others wasted time, Cleopatra learned. She understood a great truth very early in life. Knowledge is power. It is the only power that no one can steal from you. They can take your gold, they can take your palace, but they can never take your mind. She decided to learn languages. Most queens of her time did not care about education. They only cared about beautiful dresses. But Cleopatra wanted more. She learned Greek. She learned Latin. She learned Hebrew. She learned the Egyptian language. In fact, she was the very first ruler in her Greek family to learn the language of the Egyptian people. Think about that. She could speak 7 languages fluently. Every time she learned a word, she built a bridge. Every time she opened a book, she grew stronger. Every time she spoke to a stranger in their own language, she won their heart. This was her secret weapon. When you speak to a man in a language he understands, you speak to his head. But when you speak to him in his own language, you speak to his heart. Cleopatra knew this. She did not just study languages. She studied science, she studied math, she studied history and politics. She wanted to understand how the world worked. She wanted to know why empires rise and why they fall. She was not just preparing to be a queen who wore a crown. She was preparing to be a leader who ruled with wisdom. She also had a beautiful voice. People said her voice was like a musical instrument. She could charm anyone just by speaking. But her childhood was not easy. When she was only 14 years old, her life changed. Her mother disappeared. Some people said she died. Others whispered that she was killed. Her father became very sick. The dark clouds of war were coming. Cleopatra was still a teenager, but she was ready. She loved Egypt. She respected its traditions. She even dressed as the goddess Isis, a powerful Egyptian goddess. She was ready to fight for her people. She was ready to face her enemies. She knew that the road ahead would be hard. But she had her mind, and that was enough. Part 2. The Carpet and the Conqueror. When Cleopatra was only 18 years old, her world changed forever. Her father, King Ptolemy XII, passed away. In his last will, he made a big decision. He decided that Cleopatra should rule Egypt. But she could not rule alone. She had to share the throne with her younger brother. His name was Ptolemy XIII, and he was only 10 years old. In ancient Egypt, this was a common custom. Brothers and sisters ruled together to keep the family in power. But Cleopatra did not want to share her power. She knew she was ready. She knew she was smart. She had spent years studying history, languages, and politics. Her brother was just a child. He did not know how to run a country. He was weak, and weak rulers always bring danger. At first, Cleopatra tried to work with him, but her brother had advisors. These advisors were greedy men. They did not want a strong, intelligent woman on the throne. They wanted a child king. Why? Because a child is easy to control. A child does not ask questions. A child does what he is told. So, the advisors started to plan against Cleopatra. They told lies about her. They turned her brother against her. Soon, the danger became too great. To save her life, Cleopatra had to run away. She had to leave the beautiful palace of Alexandria. She had to leave her books, her gold, and her home. She fled into the desert. Imagine that, the rightful queen of Egypt, walking in the hot, dry sand. The wind was burning. The sun was blinding. She had only a few loyal friends with her. She had no army. She had no home. She had no money. But she had her mind. She had no army, but she had her mind. She had no home, but she had her mind. She had no money, but she had her mind. Most people would cry in the sand. Most people would give up and accept defeat. But a queen does not wait for someone to save her. A queen makes her own way. In the quiet desert, Cleopatra did not lose hope. She looked at the sand, and she made a plan. She knew she could not fight her brother's army alone. She needed a powerful partner. At that exact time, a famous Roman general arrived in Egypt. His name was Julius Caesar. He was one of the most powerful men in the world. He had won many wars. He was strong, rich, and respected. Cleopatra saw her chance. She knew that if she could talk to Caesar, she could win. But there was a big problem. Caesar was staying in the royal palace in Alexandria. The palace was guarded by her brother's soldiers. If Cleopatra walked to the front door, they would kill her instantly. The front door was locked. So, she had to find a window. She had to be bold. She had to do something that no one had ever done before. One night, she took a small boat and sailed secretly to Alexandria. She met with a very loyal servant. She looked at a large, heavy carpet on the floor. She told her servant to wrap her inside that carpet. Yes, a carpet. Think about the courage this took. She was a queen, lying on the floor, rolled up in a dark, tight carpet. She could barely breathe. She could not see anything. If the servant dropped her, she could be hurt. If the guards discovered her, she would die. But she chose to take the risk. The servant carried the heavy carpet on his shoulder. He walked past the guards. He walked through the long golden halls of the palace. He reached the private room of Julius Caesar. The servant put the carpet down. He unrolled it. And suddenly, Cleopatra appeared. She stood up. She was dusty, but she was proud. She was tired, but she was confident. Imagine the look on Caesar's face. He was a great general, used to war and blood, but he had never seen anything like this. A young, beautiful woman stepping out of a carpet in the middle of the night. She did not beg for help. She did not cry. She did not show fear. Instead, she spoke. She spoke to him in beautiful Greek. She spoke with charm and intelligence. She told him about her dream for Egypt. She told him how they could rule together. Caesar was amazed. He saw that she was not just a pretty face. She was a genius. She was a leader who was willing to risk everything. In that single moment, she won his heart. And she won his army. Caesar agreed to help her. Together, they fought against her brother's forces. It was a hard battle, but Caesar's army was too strong. Her brother, Ptolemy XIII, was defeated. He tried to run away, but he drowned in the Nile River. Cleopatra returned to her palace. She took back her throne. She was once again the Queen of Egypt. But she did not stop there. She did not just sit on her throne and relax. She started to work immediately. She rebuilt the economy. She made trade better. She made Egypt strong and respected. She showed her people that a woman could rule better than any man. She proved that when you lose everything, you can still win. You just need to be bold. You just need to find your window. Part 3. The Golden Queen in a Cold City. With the throne of Egypt finally secured, Cleopatra stood at the peak of her power. She was no longer a girl hiding in the desert sand. She was a true queen. A ruler who had won the ultimate game of survival. But she did not want to just sit in her palace. She wanted to build a future that would last forever. Soon, a beautiful baby boy was born. She named him Caesarion, which meant Little Caesar. He was the son of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. To Cleopatra, this child was not just a baby. He was a bridge between two worlds. He was the key to uniting the wealth of Egypt with the iron power of Rome. She dreamed of a massive empire, ruled with wisdom and strength. But dreams are dangerous things, especially in the cold world of politics. Caesar returned to Rome, and he invited Cleopatra to join him. She did not hesitate. She did not hide. She packed her bags, gathered her court, and set sail for the heart of the Roman Empire. When Cleopatra arrived in Rome, the entire city stopped to look. It was a spectacle like nothing they had ever seen before. Picture this in your mind. Golden chariots rolling through the stone streets of Rome. Exotic animals from the deep jungles of Africa. Beautiful Egyptian servants dressed in fine silk and gold. And in the middle of it all, Cleopatra. She wanted the Romans to see her wealth. She wanted them to feel her power. She was not a guest begging for favor. She was a queen showing her majesty. But Rome was a cold city. It was a city built on rules, on stone, and on jealousy. The people of Rome were shocked by her. They were not used to seeing a woman with so much confidence. Roman women looked at her with envy. Roman leaders looked at her with fear. They hated her beauty. They hated her mind. They hated her power. They whispered behind closed doors. They called her a dangerous woman. They said she had cast a spell on Julius Caesar. But Cleopatra did not care about their whispers. She stayed in a beautiful villa outside the city. She hosted grand feasts. She spoke with the most powerful men in Rome. She even influenced their fashion, as Roman women began to wear their hair like her. Meanwhile, Caesar was growing more powerful every day. He was declared dictator for life. He had complete control over Rome. Cleopatra believed their alliance was safe. She believed her son would one day rule the world. But shadows were growing in the Roman Senate. Many senators hated Caesar's power. They feared he wanted to become a king. And in Rome, they hated kings. They began to plan in secret. They carried sharp knives under their robes. On a dark day in the year 44 BCE, the trap was sprung. Caesar walked into the Senate. He did not know it was his last day. The senators surrounded him. They drew their blades. They stabbed him 23 times. The great Julius Caesar fell dead on the cold stone floor. The news spread through Rome like wildfire. The city fell into total chaos. When Cleopatra heard the news, her heart broke. She had lost her greatest ally. She had lost the father of her son. And suddenly, she was in extreme danger. Without Caesar, she had no protection in Rome. Her enemies were everywhere. They wanted her dead. They wanted her son dead. She had to act. And she had to act fast. In the middle of the dark night, she gathered her servants. She took her baby boy in her arms. She left her beautiful villa, her gold, and her dreams of Rome. She fled back to the safety of Egypt. It was a painful journey. It was a journey of grief and fear. But even in her deepest sadness, Cleopatra did not break. She did not let her tears blind her. When she landed in Alexandria, she dried her eyes. She put her crown back on her head. She knew that her people needed her. She knew that her son needed her. Even when your world falls apart, you must keep moving. Even when you lose your greatest strength, you must find a new way. She began to rebuild her army. She fixed the economy. She prepared for the storm that was surely coming, because Rome was still there, and Rome was still hungry. But Cleopatra was ready to fight. Part 4. The Goddess of Love and War. After the storm in Rome, the world did not become quiet. It became louder. It became more dangerous. The death of Julius Caesar did not bring peace. It brought war. Different men wanted to rule the great Roman Empire. They fought each other in the streets. They fought each other in the fields. Among these men, there was a brave soldier. His name was Mark Antony. He was strong. He was handsome. He was loved by his soldiers. He had the power of an army, but he did not have money. He needed wealth to win his wars. And where was the wealth of the world? It was in Egypt. It was in the hands of Cleopatra. Mark Antony sent a message to the Queen of Egypt. He wanted her to meet him. He wanted her to come to a city called Tarsus. This was in modern-day Turkey. He wanted to talk about an alliance. He wanted to tell her what to do. But Cleopatra was not a servant. She was a queen. She knew that if she went to him like a beggar, he would treat her like a beggar. If she went to him looking weak, he would take her country. She had to show him her value. She had to show him her power. You set the stage. You set the rules. You command the room. This was her mindset. She did not rush to meet him. She made him wait. She spent days preparing. She spent days planning. And when she finally arrived, she did not just walk into the city. She sailed into the city. Imagine the scene. The sun was shining on the water. A magnificent ship appeared on the river. The ship was made of gold. The oars were made of pure silver. The sails were a deep, royal purple. The wind carried the sweet smell of expensive perfumes. Music played softly on the deck. And there, In the center of the golden ship sat Cleopatra. She was not dressed in normal clothes. She was dressed as Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Beautiful servants stood around her, waving gentle fans. The people of the city ran to the river. They gasped. They stared. They had never seen such beauty. They had never seen such wealth. Mark Antony sat in the city square, waiting. Suddenly, the square was empty. Everyone had run to the river to see the Egyptian queen. Antony was left alone. He had to go to her. She did not go to him. He went to her. You set the stage. You set the rules. You command the room. When Antony stepped onto the golden ship, he was lost. He was a brave soldier, but he had no defense against her charm. She spoke to him with wit. She spoke to him with confidence. She did not beg for his protection. She offered him a partnership. She offered him the wealth of Egypt. In return, she wanted his military power to protect her throne. It was a perfect match. They fell deeply in love. It was a passion that would change history. Antony forgot about Rome. He forgot about his duties. He followed her back to Alexandria. In the beautiful palace by the sea, they lived like gods. They hosted grand parties. They laughed. They played games. They built a life together. They had 3 beautiful children, 2 boys and a girl. Cleopatra felt safe again. She believed her children would rule the East, while Antony ruled the West. But in Rome, a new enemy was watching. His name was Octavian. He was the adopted son of Julius Caesar. He was cold. He was calculating. He did not care about love. He only cared about control. He saw Antony and Cleopatra as a threat. He saw their love as a crime against Rome. He began to tell lies about them. He told the Roman people that Antony had lost his mind. He said Antony was no longer a Roman. He said Antony had become an Egyptian servant. They hated her beauty. They hated her mind. They hated her power. Octavian wanted war. He wanted to destroy Cleopatra. He wanted to take Egypt for himself. The clouds of war were gathering once more. But Cleopatra did not hide. She stood beside Antony. They prepared their ships. They prepared their soldiers. She knew that this would be the final test. She knew that everything she loved was at stake. But she was ready to fight. Part 5. The Final Choice. The year was 31 BCE. The world was holding its breath. A huge clash was about to happen on the blue waters near Greece. It was the Battle of Actium. This was not just a battle for a piece of land. This was a battle for the entire world. On one side was Octavian, cold, patient, and powerful. On the other side was Mark Antony and Cleopatra. They stood together on the deck of their great ships. They looked at the horizon. They knew everything was on the line. Their love, their children, their country. The noise of the battle was deafening. Wood crashed against wood. Arrows flew through the air like rain. The sea turned red with blood. Antony fought with the fury of a wild lion. Cleopatra watched from her royal flagship. But Octavian's navy was too smart. They were too organized. They began to surround Cleopatra's ships. Then, something unexpected happened. Cleopatra's ship turned around. She hoisted her purple sails and steered away from the fight. Why did she do this? Some say she was afraid. Some say she wanted to save her own fleet to fight another day. She wanted to protect her home. But Antony saw her ship leaving. He did not understand. He thought she had abandoned him. He thought she had betrayed their love. In that moment, his heart broke. A man with a broken heart cannot fight. He left his soldiers. He jumped onto a small boat and followed her. His army was left without a leader. They were destroyed by Octavian. The dream of a great empire was gone in a single afternoon. Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt, but the joy was gone. The palace felt empty. The air was heavy with sadness. Antony was a shadow of his former self. He sat in dark rooms, staring at the floor. He felt the pain of defeat. And the enemy was coming. Octavian's army marched into Egypt. They surrounded the city of Alexandria. There was no escape. In the middle of the chaos, a false rumor spread. Someone told Antony that Cleopatra was dead. They said she had taken her own life in her grand tomb. For Antony, this was the final blow. Without Cleopatra, the world had no light. Without Cleopatra, there was no reason to breathe. He drew his sword. He fell upon his own blade. He wanted to join her in the afterlife. But as he lay dying, a servant rushed in. The servant whispered the truth. Cleopatra was not dead. She was hiding in her secure tomb. With his last bit of strength, Antony asked to be carried to her. They pulled his bleeding body up through the window of the tomb. Cleopatra held him in her arms. She washed the blood from his face. She cried tears of pure gold. Antony looked into her eyes one last time. He died in the arms of the woman he loved. Now, Cleopatra was truly alone. Her lover was dead. Her army was gone. Her city was captured. Octavian entered the palace. He wanted to take her alive. He wanted to chain her. He wanted to drag her through the streets of Rome. He wanted the Roman people to laugh at the defeated queen. He wanted to show everyone that Rome had conquered Egypt. But Cleopatra was a queen. She was a daughter of kings. She knew that you cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose how you face it. She did not beg. She did not cry. She did not surrender. She did not beg Octavian for mercy. She did not cry for her lost gold. She did not surrender her dignity. She decided to write her own ending. She took a warm bath. She put on her finest royal robes. She placed the golden crown on her head. She looked as beautiful as the day she met Caesar and the day she met Antony. She lay down on a golden bed. She held a small basket of figs. Inside the basket, hidden under the leaves, was a poisonous snake, an asp. In Egypt, the snake was a symbol of royalty. It was a symbol of the gods. She let the snake bite her arm. The poison moved slowly through her veins. She closed her eyes. She fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. When Octavian's soldiers broke into the room, they were shocked. They expected to find a crying prisoner. Instead, they saw a queen. She was dead, but she was still wearing her crown. She looked like she was just resting. She had won her final battle. She had kept her pride. Octavian had conquered her land, but he had not conquered her spirit. She died on her own terms. She died as a queen. Now, take a moment to look at your own life. You are not ruling a country like ancient Egypt. You do not wear a golden crown on your head, but you have your own battles to fight. You have your own storms to face every single day. Every time you feel weak, think of Cleopatra. Every time you feel alone, remember her long walk in the dry desert. Every time someone tells you that you cannot succeed, remember her golden ship sailing into the harbor. She did not let fear run her life. She did not let her enemies write her final chapter. She took her destiny into her own hands. And you can do the exact same thing. You have a powerful mind. You have a strong voice. You have a resilient spirit waiting to shine. No matter how hard your current situation is, you can rise above it. No matter how many times you fall down, you can stand up again. Do not let other people define your worth. Do not let the world tell you who you are. Show them who you are. Be bold in your choices. Be smart with your plans. Never give up on the dreams that keep you awake at night. You have the power to shape your own future. I hope this incredible story touched your heart today. I hope these simple words give you the strength to keep going. If you loved this journey through history, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories every week. Share this video with a friend who needs some motivation today. Thank you so much for listening. Keep moving forward. Be bold, be brave, and be unforgettable.